Nicola Madden-Greig, President of the Caribbean Hotel and Tourism Association.
Nicola, thank you so much for giving us time here at the conference, day 3. Really would love to get your kind of perspectives on and key takeaways.
Well, I think one thing that came out of this is the lessons of COVID. The pandemic, for all the bad, really left us with a lot of good and a lot of excellent opportunities. The collaboration that went through to get us through the pandemic and to get us where we are now in terms of recovery, especially for the Caribbean, which is the fastest recovering region in the world. For small island states with very little budget, I think it's incredible what we did. To see also what's happening in the other regions in Africa, which is a part of this conference, and to see their resilience, because I remember at the beginning of the pandemic, there was fear that Africa would be so devastating, and they too came together and were able to come out strong. So I think overall it's looking at resilience, truly how when we collaborate that we can overcome anything with something that is 100 years before we have seen this kind of crisis, that we were able to pull through so strong. So going into the future, what I think really shows us is planning. What we know now, we can embed into our future planning. How do we strategize across regions and don't think of ourselves as in silos? In Jamaica and in the region, we also found that we were collaborating not only in tourism, but with other sectors, with agriculture, with manufacturing. Just everyone recognized that you can't do it alone. And it was probably the most important takeaway for us.
And I think that's a really great sort of point, that last one, this idea of kind of cross-cutting, and we're all in this together from a kind of connectivity perspective. What about sort of the kind of the people side of things?
Well, everything comes back to the people. The fact is that this is an industry that can drive real results for communities and for people. And what we're looking at, of course, is to engage more and more of our small, micro and medium-sized tourism enterprise and our communities. For too long, tourism has been seen as of them and not of us. And I think as we embrace that, and actually the world is looking for that, localization is really the hot thing, authenticity. So we can tell our stories in very authentic and unique ways, and that involves the people, not only as employees, but as entrepreneurs, as part of the product, as part of the story. And we're seeing more in that and investing more in that element as well. I think the next generation of tourism leaders are definitely more tech-driven. And so it's not only about just actual service that you enjoy when you come, but also everything that leads up to that. And how do you really promote online? How do you create that story prior to? How do you let the dreamers become, really live the experience? So I think it's only positive, and I think what we're doing now in this conference, opening up people's minds to the opportunities, and that's exposing how much of a catalyst and a driver tourism is for economic development, will only stand to help us to build out industries behind it.
And linked to that sort of people point, which I think is brilliantly well made by you there, what about the skills? Reskilling, upskilling, or making sure that with the next generation are equipped to be able to kind of realize their potential?
It is critical. And I mean, during COVID, we had to train and retrain because, of course, COVID brought its own set of protocols. We trained thousands and thousands of employees all over the Caribbean. There was a lot of sharing and benchmarking. So, we developed protocols in one destination, but was shared with everybody else. There wasn't, as you said, competition or, I'm going to only keep this for my people and not yours. And that is something that we will continue. And it is now looking at having maybe schools located in certain countries, but virtual learning has made that so much easier for people to have availability to content that they maybe would not have had before. And that has opened up a whole new space of opportunities for upskilling of our team members. And again, we continue to invest in institutions. So we want people to be able to come into the industry and know that it is a career and can go right to the top. And not only your first degree, your master's, but also professional qualification. So we can continue to see the next generation being interested in tourism. And I think we have to do a better job of telling that story, that there is a place for you and there is a place for you right to the top.
And Jamaica, as you said, has been really leading the way in terms of recovery, and Africa not far behind, thanks to your great stats that you shared with us earlier.
Yes.
But what do you think the world can learn from you? What can they start doing differently and better?
Well, for us, It was absolutely about private sector and public sector coming together immediately. I don't know if people understand how soon we hit our Minister of Finance and the public sector. When COVID hit and we closed our borders just around the 15th of March, we were the next week meeting with government. Within a week, we had our COVID response task force in place, which was half private sector, half public sector. Our Minister of Tourism, Edmund Bartlett, have to give him full credit. He's very much one and on our side of the fence, because I was a former president of the Hotel Association here, but we're very much about getting it done. And it was sleepless nights, long days, Sunday, Monday, every day of the week. I mean, we lived, ate, and slept recovery. And there was not a choice. It was, we have to do this. This is our bread and butter. We have to make it work. And as I said, the other sectors came on board and supported that. And they themselves recognized the value of tourism, which maybe before there was kind of a little bit of argument, is this where we should really focus? And everybody saw what it meant to lose that industry. So I think going forward, collaboration, but deep collaboration, not just talky-talky collaboration, and understanding that this is an economic priority. That tourism is not just, a service industry, but it drives everything else. The hard industries are driven by tourism. So I think that's where the lesson is learned, and how other countries, like now, for example, I mentioned that earlier on the panel, we have a quarterly meeting with the Bank of Jamaica, where all the industries speak and give an update on what's happening, what's going into the future. We started that during COVID. But we have continued it because it was an absolute game changer, breaking down all the silos. Everybody knows what's happening in everybody's industry. Construction knows what's coming, manufacturing knows, agriculture knows, creative industry knows, and that's made all the difference.
That's a brilliant example of to turn that sort of interdependency into a strength.
Yes, yes.
So last question really, I suppose. None of us have a crystal ball, but let's just kind of put our minds forward to Resilience Day kind of next year, 24. What do you hope to kind of be able to kind of talk to me about then?
Well, I think by then, I think we should be, like in terms of our training and upskilling, we should be far ahead. Not just talking about it, but being able to deliver results and say we have moved people forward in this way. The other element that I think would be critical is looking at some of the climate change issues and ensuring that we have implemented some of the projects that we have spoken about, because that is a real imperative to focus on. I think also from a resilience point of view, we would have to say again, how are we working closely with government on policy? Because some of the things that hamper us are policy driven. And one great thing about COVID, as you know, throughout the world, there was a reduction. It's almost like when 9/11 and you had that special laws that came in. For COVID, we had the DMRA, which was special laws. If we can use that template and say to ourselves, to achieve the things we want to achieve in resilience and in sustainability, maybe we need some special policies in place that we're going to cut through the red tape and have a cross-governmental and ministerial focus on it. And I think that would be something that would really make a difference. So hopefully we can lobby for that and advocate for that, and you'll be able to report to you.
Well, thank you very much for giving us your time today.
My pleasure.